Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. My name is Matthew Brenner. Today, I am with my brother, co-founder of Action Karate, Professor Solomon Brenner, Professor B. And today, we're going to talk about the four phases every school owner needs to go through in order to get from $0 all the way to $1 million a year in a martial arts school. Now, some of these phases might move faster, some of these phases might be slower. And we're going to talk about, in general, the four phases that like every school owner in general is going to go through. Obviously, not might not be applicable exactly to each person, but if you want to grow your martial arts school, whether you're at zero or whether you're already at 500K a year or 750 a year, if you want to get to a million and beyond, you're going to want to listen to this episode. We're going to break down the different steps you're going to need to do, because every step along the way, every phase requires different skills, responsibilities, strategies. So we're going to talk about each one. Sometimes we're going to disagree on different ones, but it's a little bit of background for anyone that doesn't know. So Solomon Brenner founded Action Karate in 1994 with his co-founder Jacqueline Razai, and they have over 30 locations. Does over $12 million a year in revenue. So one of the biggest martial arts organizations in the world. Okay. So if you want to talk to someone about scaling, this is not just someone who, runs like a marketing company or agency or something like that. This is someone that actually is in the trenches all the time. And I've been with Action Karate since I was a teenager. I ran three schools, sold one more recently, two more schools that I still own. And you're going to learn the four phases that we go through. So if there's anyone to learn it from, that's the master, even though he will say he's not. It's going to be Solomon over here. So, do you want me to call you Solomon or Professor B, or you don't care?
It doesn't matter to me, but I would say you were with us since age 2. And
Not
you,
necessarily true. Not necessarily true, because
at two, okay, so
I
wait,
was
so
I was with
31
Matt
years, so
Pitt first.
we were open 30 years ago, and you were sort of on our first demo team, and we didn't have a demo team. It was like you and a couple friends, and you ran on the mat and coughed and cried and then did some karate. Actually, you've been like 4. I don't know.
Yeah, well, uh, I was thinking more like from a professional level, like where I actually started to work as a teenager. Getting paid is a different story, right?
Yeah,
Worked
we,
probably since I was like 10 or 11 as an assistant instructor or leadership team member, I would say. And then probably didn't get paid until I was like 19 or something like that. Maybe a little younger, maybe like 17. But obviously developed all the skills that I needed in order to get where I am today. So super, super grateful for that. So, all right, so let's dive in. So there's going to be four phases that we walk through today, and then I'm going to have a bunch of questions I want to ask you. Then we're going to open it up for any clients that are on. So I know we have a couple of my clients that are on here that are W Your Dojo clients. Like Matt Tracy's on here right now. He already runs a seven-figure school. So I'm going to open up for questions at the end, so stay muted. Okay. Matt's also an engaged man, getting married in a couple months. So that's going to be really exciting for him. But if you want to grow your school, you want to know the phases, listen in because we're going to go through each one. So there's got four phases we go through. So level one is going to be the hustler phase. That's going to be the revenue range between 0 and 10K a month. Okay. And the next phase is going to be level two, which is going to be the builder phase, which is between 10K a month and 30K a month. The scalar phase is level three. That's 30K a month to 50K a month. And then level four is the CEO phase, which is 50K to 83K a month. 83K a month being $1 million a year school and beyond. So we're going to break down each phase, what we feel like it requires, what difficulties instructors have or school owners have, and talk about our experiences going through each one. So let's talk first about the hustler phase. So when you were starting your first school, so if we were gonna take a trip back in time, tell me about your hustler phase when you're going from 0 to 10K a month. Like we'll talk about yours, and then we'll talk about what we feel like the key responsibilities are for a school owner at that level.
every morning. I was in college at the time, so I would drive to college 20 minutes in one direction, and it was like if you had a line, I lived here, college was here, can't see that, and then I had to go past my house to the karate school. It was exactly in the opposite direction, literally on the same road almost in the opposite direction. So it'd be 20 minutes to school for my university, drive 40, 45 minutes back, hopefully I didn't hit any traffic, and then run and I probably like at the school somewhere between 12 and 1 o'clock after school. And that was for the first 2 years. And partner Jacqueline, she was there every single morning at 9 a.m. So like I'd be texting and calling and talking to people. during classes, and I used my professors as consultants. One of them actually said the words to me, Solomon, I'm not your private consultant, right? Because it'd be like they would teach whatever they taught, and then I'd be like, but I have, like the marketing or business professors, but I have a question. And that was every day. If I had a day off, I was at the school at 9 a.m., of course. And that was 7 days a week for years and years and years. Just birthday parties, Sundays doing demos, delivering flyers. We used to deliver flyers. Jacqueline had a part-time job as a waitress in the beginning. And if she got off of work at like, midnight from the steakhouse, we would go deliver flyers at 1 a.m. Like, had to get done, had to get done. I remember like the lights, like people had motion sensors and the lights would snap on. And then people would look out their windows at like 1 o'clock in the mornings and we'd be standing there putting flyers in their mailbox, which we shouldn't have been doing. But I
You mean
mean,
in the mailbox?
of course, in the mailbox.
Yes, illegal. You got to put it behind the mailbox.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that we were grinding every single day. Somebody once said like I'm a an entrepreneur. I choose to work any 24 hours a day that I want. And for us, we had no money, no anything. Like if we wanted a treat, it was this is not an exaggeration. It was at the dollar store. And that was a treat. It wasn't like even we would even splurge every day on $1 of, Reese's peanut butter cups or something. So I think now it also gives me a lot of gratefulness and a lot of pride in where we are today.
So I remember when I first started, I was a senior in college, and we were having a conversation at our parents' house, and I knew I wanted to help people because I like that. When I say help people, I think a lot of people just say that. Okay, it's like, oh, I want to help people. Yeah, sure, but I just like working with people. I didn't necessarily want a desk job, and I was I think going towards the like my path was really going to be into going to politics or law. That's really where I was going. Even though I did martial arts my whole life, I was like, yeah, that's cool, but like it's cool for you, big bro. But and I love martial arts, but I want to make money, right? And I was watching Mad Men and other TV shows where they're wearing, Don Draper's wearing a suit and he's all suave and the ladies are all over him. And I'm like, damn, I want to be like that, right? Unfortunately, maybe you weren't that image for me at the time.
I would like to be like that too, actually. So I'm gonna look into it.
Yeah. So what we had a conversation and I was trying to figure out what to do. And I was in a couple of different internships where I wear a suit every day and take the train downtown in a high-rise building. But then I'd look around at all the people around me and like they did not look happy in what they were doing. I was working for Merrill Lynch at the time as an intern, so I wasn't being paid at this time. And yeah, some of them did really well for themselves, but a lot of them didn't. There was a ton of turnover, a ton of pressure, and just even the people that made money just seemed like stressed out of their mind all the time. And you sat me down and we talked about like, hey, like what does it actually look like to run a martial arts school? Like what does it look like financially? Like what is the income potential? What is the day to day? And you're like, hey, if you like working with kids and you like working with people, and obviously you like martial arts and fitness, like you can make this a career. And even though my brother already had, I don't know how many schools you had at that time, probably like six or seven, maybe. No, more than that. I would say probably like a dozen. Um, I didn't think you can even make a living out of it. So if that's me and you were so close to it and I was so close to it, imagine someone in like a regular martial arts school that the owner has one location and the student doesn't know any other person in their life who does martial arts as a career besides their instructor. Like how are they even going to know? So setting that vision, we're going to talk about later because that's one of the phases. But I remember when I first started, you're like, okay, I made the decision. All right, I'm going to do this. And you said, okay, cool. Like, go to this neighborhood and start knocking on doors. And I was like, what? Because I was a college kid at the time, a senior, and I think I was in like month two, senior year. I was in a frat, partying all the time. Okay, like partying, I would say Wednesday or Thursday night through Saturday night. So it's like 4 nights, 3 to 4 nights a week, just having a good time. And I was like, and all of a sudden it's like I'm like a business person. And you're like, okay, go start knocking on doors and handing out flyers. And I was like, okay. And like you sent me the neighborhood. And I remember my first night I went there and we had another instructor. You sent another instructor who I worked with that you sent me with. Like, hey, go do it with him. And I remember it was like maybe 5 p.m. So it was like just started to get dark and it was in the fall. And I remember just going from door to door, being nervous as hell, knocking. and they would and you said just introduce yourself. I had some flyers, but I didn't have our address on. I didn't even know where our address was going to be. You just kind of had an idea which neighborhood we're going to be in, and you're like, hey, I need you to go to school, door to door, and tell them who you are, what your background is, and see if they want to do martial arts in the future. And it was like A, scary as hell, B, a ton of work just going door to door. But it was such a good learning experience. And that for me, I feel like was the beginning of my hustler phase, which is like, hey, I will do whatever the hell it takes in order to get this school off the ground. If I have to go door to door to do it, then that's great. A lot of really impressive entrepreneurs will talk about how they had door to door sales at some point in their journey and how that taught them like really good sales. So I think sometimes we're like above it, and a new school owner is like, yeah, this is cool. Like I'm new, like I'm gonna run a bunch of Facebook ads and people are gonna show up. Like, yeah, you can do that, right? And maybe you should have like some sort of digital marketing budget, but you shouldn't just rely on that, right? You got to go out and bring people, especially when you don't have a lot of income coming in or no income coming in, just start from $0. You got to go out there and earn it. Okay. And it'll teach you sales skills to be able to talk to people. And I remember like you're right, that night go. And I didn't even know what her address was. I really didn't know anything. Like I would just give them my cell phone number and get their cell phone number, and that was it. But of course, like when we figured out where the address was and where we're going to be temporarily, I was able to text them. I had leads in the door, right? People that would start to come in. And for me, that was such a pivotal moment. So let's talk about that phase one, that the hustler phase. I talked about my experience, but we're going to talk about like what your focus would be. So level one, the hustler phase between 0 and 10K a month. The focus is going to be getting new students any way, anyhow you can. Okay. So your key responsibilities is like you're going to do everything. You're going to be teaching, sales, cleaning, follow-ups. You're probably going to do most of it yourself. Your heavy focus is going to be on student acquisition and building early retention habits. Okay. And yeah, you might not have all the systems ironed out yet, but you're gonna go through grit and charm and energy to kind of power your way through. Now, should you develop systems? Yes. But you don't wait to have every single system before you start. I think that's the problem most people make, right? They want to have like the perfect website, the perfect ad, or the perfect facility before they think they can start. So no, you just got to start get new people in the door. And those first, especially like when you're going from 0 to 10K a month, those first 50 students or so, those first 100 students or so, they're usually the most loyal because they watch you from the beginning. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
And you really gotta like just that's why it's called the hustler phase. You're just gonna grind to make it work. And there's a couple skills that you're gonna work to master during that time that you're gonna want to master. Now it doesn't mean master like, okay, I mastered it, I know how to do it forever. But hey, these are skills you really want to develop. And of course you'll get better and better at it over time. So the one thing is you want to be good at grassroots marketing, right? So when you can go out and recruit and bring in new students without having to pay for them. So that's going to be table events, demonstrations, maybe partnerships, programs at local schools and daycares, which I teach. You got to be really good at selling memberships. Okay. So I think a lot of people in the beginning, they don't want to sell. They're really scared to sell. So when you are training a new location, a new action karate location, you have an instructor that comes on board. And maybe, yeah, they've been an instructor at one of our schools for a while, but now they're the head of the ship and developing or they're the captain of the ship and they're developing their location. How do you get them to be comfortable about selling memberships? I feel like a lot of times that's like people feel icky about sales in martial arts. They just have a weird feeling, especially in the beginning. So, what do you do to help martial arts school owners in the beginning, if they're part of our franchise, that to help them feel comfortable selling?
I mean, we have scripts for everything. Some people need more than scripts, but we try to start with memorize the scripts. So what's the three words like memorize, not personalize, memorize, internalize, personalize. So first it's strict memorization, like you used to memorize the presidents or the states and the capitals, just memorize. Then it's internalized, right? And when they do that in their heads, they sound like a robot and they sound super uncomfortable. They don't sound uncomfortable usually to other people, but in their own minds, they sound uncomfortable. They sound like a robot. And then internalize, it gets a little better. And then once they have a level of success, so for us, that would be like maybe grossing 30,000 a month or something. Like they've done it for a while, they got it. If they want to personalize it a little bit, we say, great, you can personalize it a little bit, not an issue at all. Um, you can do that. And then if they do that, we ask them to tell us what they want to like modify because we either say like, oh, we did that before and it didn't work, or did work, or hey, that's a great idea, try it, let us know how it goes. That's one of the ways that we grow. The people I'm not doing enrollments anymore, so there could be a better way. And if there is, I want somebody to do it. I don't want them to do it if they're brand new though. Like the system we have, I know for a fact works. There could be a better system, but I don't want to take a risk on their livelihood of them risking it. So I'd rather them just stick to what we have, but then later on we do that. And then we also sometimes people have hangups over money, like asking for money. It's like it's just based on the way they were brought up. So sometimes we have to like teach how to not impose who you are on the other person and make sure that they're comfortable with. There's no difference between $1,000 and $100 or $10,000 and $1,000. It's all the same. It's just a number. It's just a number. The only thing that's different about it is your perception of it or your relationship. So we try and we have a drill where we have them. I'm sure we've done it with you or you've seen it
Yeah,
done.
no, I
Where
know it.
like, hey, like you have to ask me for a color. I'm sure you can teach it to your clients or people on here. So it'd be like, can I have blue? Can I have orange? Can I have brown? Like there's no emotion to that. But if you wanted to ask somebody on
Well, let's
here,
play it. Let's play it together. So
all
like,
right, the key we would do it is you teach them how to really do it, but it'd be exactly that. It would be okay, how do you want to play it?
yeah, so let's role play here. So if you're a school owner and you're listening right now and you have a staff member that you want to be able to get them to enroll new students, or you like you're just not comfortable, you feel weird doing it, try this drill. I'll tell you right now like how we're gonna do it, and you could just copy it. And by the way, like I've joined multiple martial arts schools myself that are like, when I'm a student, like at jujitsu schools, and uh I would say two out of three of them, no one has sold me a membership. Like no one's got sat down to go over the membership with me. It's like I had to like follow up with them to pay. And I probably could have gone for 3 months, 6 months, or a year and not paid a dime because no one asked me anything. If they would have asked me at any point, I would have just joined. But of course, I'm a martial artist, I'm professional. So I'm coming from different backgrounds. So I asked them, like, hey, how do I join? What do I need to do? And sometimes it's like me following up multiple times because I feel bad. So, and that's my personal experience. I'm sure this happens to a lot of people that want to join in places. So don't feel bad selling a membership because you're not really selling them a membership. Um, you're selling them a transformation. Okay. So let's talk about this drill we're going to
Wait,
do.
hold, can we go
So
back for 1 second? I
yeah.
just want to put up, like you're describing your experience, and if somebody's listening, they'll think, well, that's great. So eventually, I don't have to be good at sales. The person will feel bad. They'll come to me, and eventually, they'll enroll. So there's a distinction between an order taker, and that's somebody that comes up to you and says, "Hey, Mr. Brenner, I want to enroll in martial arts. Can you get me some paperwork?" And then you go and do that. That's not a salesperson. That's an order taker. A salesperson is that mom or dad or that adult that is a little bit nervous, that has some real challenges, like they're not sure if they can make it in their schedule. Maybe the money's a little bit tight. Maybe they're not sure if their child's going to stick with it. Where you help them get past that. That's a salesperson. It's someone who helps people get out of their own way, helps people overcome their own challenges. So and 40 or 50% of the people that walk into your school will probably enroll if you said to them, the most unprofessional things in the world. Like if you were just like, hey, do you want to do karate? Yes, sign this contract. They probably say, okay, great, right? Because they want it so bad, they're already pre-sold, like that's fine. And we believe that you can have like an average school in the country doing that. And the average school in the country, from my understanding, from the stats that I've seen, does about $13,000 a month. That's the average in the country. However, if you're a professional, it's the other 30% of the people that, to get from 50% to 80% or maybe 70% or maybe not, somewhere 20, 30, 40% more is where you need to be a professional and you need to help guide them to help them. And that's really truly helping them. And it's not some scummy sales thing. It's truly like they came in for something. They wanted their kid to be more confident, disciplined, focused, whatever. But then there was like a little roadblock in the way. And for you, I always visualize like I'm taking their hand and saying, okay, I get you're a little bit nervous. They're going to quit. You're a little bit nervous about the money. You're a little bit nervous. Let me help you over here. Let me explain how this is going to work. And that's the sales process, is being diagnosing it and like helping them over, not being like the typical, people think of sales as like, like a used car salesman selling them something they don't need or want. There's something they do need or want. But but again, there might be like a speed bump that we have to help them over. If everybody was you, then we wouldn't have to do anything because you would just show up and say, hey, where do I pay? And and I'm the same way. Sometimes we go places and I'm like, hey, how do we join here? But that's not the average.
Yeah, that's the minority for sure. Like if I didn't do martial arts already, if I didn't already train in jujitsu and I was like thinking about it, not sure, it's very unlikely I would go back to that place, right? It's only because I already know I want to do it and I'm coming from a different perspective. So let's go over that drill. So pretend you're the head instructor, you're the school owner, I'm the instructor, and you're trying to train me in order to feel comfortable asking for money. So we'll do the color one first, then we'll do the number one first.
All right, right. So I have you, I'm gonna get a piece of paper. I would have you sit down. I would have you put your feet flat on the ground, hands on your knees or hands on a chair so that I can see all your movements.
Okay.
And then I would hold up a piece of paper and I'd write some colors on it. And when I point to the color, you ask me for that. I don't know if you can see this, but it would be like, so you would say, can I have,
Can I have blue? Can I have green? Can I have brown?
and then like orange, purple, whatever. And then your body language would be exactly the same because there's no emotion to that. And then I would do the same thing and I would do like,
By the way, if you're listening to this right now, like write this down and take notes because this is such an easy, simple drill to do, and it makes a huge impact. All right, so
now I'm going to point the number now. You're going to say, "Can I have?" And it'll be like the $1. Then we'll go down. Ready?
okay, so
So
these are dollars. I'm saying.
yeah,
Okay, can I have $1? Can I have $10? Can I have $100? Can I have $1,000?
I feel your voice changed a little bit on 100. Uh, because asking somebody for $100 for some people is a lot of money. I'm sure for some people asking for 10,000 is a lot of money, right? Like, and it all depends on the checks you've written yourself and it might not be $100 for you. It's hard to tell on this video, but the idea if you when you do it with your own team, like you'll see them literally like their body will clench, they'll take a deep breath before they say it, their voice inflection will change, and it's true. It is very interesting to watch. And then the rest, then you go back and forth. It would be like so you'll ask like you'd say like I'll point to this, so ask for this.
Can I have blue? Can I have green? Can I have brown?
No, no, no. It'd be like blue and then a number, green and
Oh,
then
got it. So can I have blue? Can I
and
have $10,000?
right, but you would start with one and then 10, like it would,
Got
and
it.
you like five colors, five numbers, whatever. And again, it's nothing to do with the number. It only has to do with your connection to the number. So if you've written $20,000 checks on a regular basis or $25,000 checks on a regular basis, and maybe you came from a family that like money's not that, I'm not saying wealthy, because that's not the issue, but like money really wasn't a thing. Like if you need to borrow 10 grand from your parents, you barely had to ask, right? Like so depend or but if you came from a family where when you saw somebody driving by with a really nice car, one of your parents said to you, they must have stole some money or they must have ripped people off to become rich. You know what I mean? Like then you have this like personal connection to the money, thinking like, oh, that it's when you're asking for money, you have this like icky feeling inside because of that. Like it kind of gets a little bit deep, but once you get the person to do like blue $1, green $10, are they start to realize there is nothing. It's just a number, just like a color, and it doesn't make any difference. And once they get comfortable with that, it just becomes easier for them. And of course, the longer they do it, the better they get at it.
Yeah, and I remember when you did it with me the first time. Obviously now I have experience, so I'm trying to animate it a little bit. But I know the first time, I remember when I asked for like $500, it was like I was like, can I have $500? Can I have $1,000? And my tone would change. It would get higher, or I'd move slower. Can I have $1? It was like feels like nothing.
You would
But
ask a stranger on the street for $1. Like, if you needed $1, like, hey, dude, can I borrow $1? But
right.
asking, like your best friend for $100,000 would be like, hey, can I take you out to dinner? Like, we got to meet. Like, you wouldn't just ask your best friend for that easily, unless you had a really great best friend and you had no qualms about money, and not even a really great best friend, but you had a good relationship with money. And it doesn't mean you have a lot of money. So it's not like, oh, when I have $1 million, I wouldn't be afraid to ask. That's none of that the issue. The issue is your relationship with money in general, and if you can't ask for 1,000 now, you can't ask for 100,000 later. Like it's got to be money's not an issue, and you're giving them an opportunity to join your school. It's up to them to say whatever they want to say.
Yeah, so you want the person who's asking for money to be completely flat. You don't want them to be nervous. Like, hey, our memberships are, $200 a month, or this is not the way you should say it, but $200 a month or $300 a month. Which one works better for you, right? You wouldn't want to say this one's 200 and this one's 300, and like you
Even
sound
even if you
nervous
don't
and you
say
really
it,
sound nervous.
even if you don't say it, people can sense emotions. Like you know when somebody's nervous, and it's so true. Like if the person's thinking, "Oh my God, that's like a car payment," then are some people still going to join? Yes. Again, the 50% that just like want to do it, like it's not going to matter how you say it. But to be a professional, it has to be you're presenting an opportunity with no emotion. The only emotion is I hope you do it because, and the other thing is, like, I know for a fact that somebody that trains with us in our schools for a long period of time is better off than somebody who doesn't, period. And I also know that if somebody said to me today, hey, Solomon, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you, and I'm not joking. If I'll give you $1 million, I would even do it for 10 million. I'll give you $10 million. Karate never existed in your life. You just, you played hockey. Like, but, martial arts just did not exist. I would honestly say I would not take $10 million, not a chance in the world, because I am who I am now. I see the world for the way that I see it, which I think is valuable to me because of my training in martial arts. So for me, when we're saying it's $200 or $300 a month, I'm thinking of in my head, what a deal. Like I'm giving you like all these great things that like everybody should know they're not teaching in school and all these wonderful things. That's how I'm thinking about it. I'm not thinking like, oh, that's a lot of money. Do I think it's a lot of money for some people? Yes, but I also think if it's a lot of money for them, they're going to learn so many great things with us. Eventually, somebody in their family, it's going to be not that much money because they're going to be so successful. Like I'm helping this person take their family to the next level.
Exactly. And it's not necessarily the amount of money, it's the value, right? If I'm wearing um, a gold Rolex and it's worth, I could sell it right now on the street for $100,000, and I come to you and say, hey Solomon, I have this watch, I'll sell it to you for 5 grand. You might be like, if you don't know the value of the watch, then you're gonna be like, 5 grand for a watch, that's crazy. But if you know the watch is worth 100 grand and you're buying it for 5 grand, you might only have $100 in your bank account, but you're gonna go find a way to get 5 grand. You'll do whatever the hell it takes. You're gonna start calling your friends, you're gonna start calling your family, you might take out a loan. Why? Because the value and the difference between the price and the value is extremely different, right? There's a huge gap. So if you create that gap between what the value is and what the cost is, it becomes easy to join. Okay. And that's a little bit more advanced thinking, but that's going to be phase one or level one. It's the hustler phase, doing whatever it takes. You don't worry about working hours. You're not showing up at your school between the hours of 3 and 8 p.m. or 4 and 9 p.m. They okay, here's the hours I work. Now you're working all day every day to strong arm your way to 10K, 0 to 10K a month. Okay. And you don't want to add too many expenses in the beginning. I think a lot of times people will get they'll get like a lot of square footage, probably more than they need, or get expensive rent and it really tracks them down or really like is heavy on them. But the other thing they'll do is they start hiring people like right away, right? And they'll hire some admin person, but they don't have any system set up. So the admin person doesn't do the work correctly. And then they're not following up the leads the right way. They're not calling. And then you're losing money because they're not doing that correctly. And you're spending too much money on employees. So yeah, could you hire someone to help you? Yes, but you need to have the systems in place to kind of do that. So that's going to be phase one. Is it cool now if we transfer to phase two? Transition?
Are you asking me or them?
I'm asking you.
All right, so it is, but I want to give a caveat that we talked about before, just because I know that when we go through this, people get uh, frustrated, and I don't want them to be frustrated. So number one is as a business owner, your job is to solve problems, and the more successful you are, the bigger the problems. And that should be an honor, not like, oh my God, these people just never listen. Oh, this doesn't happen. And so for some people, it becomes like very frustrating. It creates like a level of stress where they hate it. But if you truly want to be successful, you have to reframe it where every problem is an opportunity to grow. And that's the entire business or any business that I believe. Like it just, I look at like spiraling up, and my goal is to spiral up the bigger and bigger problems, right? Like I don't have this problem down here anymore because I'm good at that, or my team is good at that. I'm just going to, spiral up and up and up and up and up. And the other thing, and this isn't a plug for you, although you'd be perfect for it, is when you're going. So one of the things I learned in the beginning was some people say like, oh, like I'm an instructor for, I'm trying to get to 100 students, and they ran their school like they had 100 students. Whatever the number of students that you want, which is also a calculus of how much, income you're going to have. So whether it's, X number of dollars a month, or, when we started, the gold standard was 300 active students. That was the gold standard 30 years ago. So somebody taught us you have to run your school today when you have 20 students like you have 300 active. The way you talk to the students, the way you teach it, the way the class schedule is, the way you mark attendance, all of your systems are like you already have 300 students. Now the challenge is if you're new to the business and you came from, everybody kind of came from some karate school, I assume. Like you
Martial
only
arts,
have
like
to,
taekwondo or whatever.
right. Your reference point is your instructor, right? Like whatever they did seems like the way to do it. You really need to do is have someone who's already been there, done that, and has done the level that you want and get them to teach it to you. Like sometimes like I pay a lot of money for mentorship and I invest a lot of time in mentorship because I always just think it's a way of me shortcutting. Could I learn it maybe through a book or a video or trial and error? Sure, sure. How long is that going to take? I don't want to take that time. I'd rather just like say here somebody, here's some money, show me show me how to do it, and then we're scaling it, we're moving on, we're going to the next challenge, we're going to the next problem. So all these things, like yes, level one, I get like the idea of this these different levels, but and I don't think you can skip the levels, but you can certainly avoid a lot of having to learn it on your own. And luckily for us, we had Grandmaster Silva in the beginning. He had 1,200 active students, places crushing it. We went and watched, and not only 1,200 active students, because some people say McDojo. Like we went and watched classes, the students were phenomenal. Like I was like proud to be like, oh yeah, look how good these people are, and so was he. And so you guys have Mr. Brenner now, same exact, and he didn't ask me to say any of this, but same exact thing, like learn it yourself, which is fine. You maybe figure it out, or you can go way faster. Somebody just says to you, here's the words to say, here's how to do it. And then you're good. Anyway, that's what I do. I have no interest in trying to figure it out for myself.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously, like in the beginning, there's some things you have to go through experience, but there's some things that if you could shortcut that, money loves speed, right? So, okay, thank you for sharing that caveat. I think that was great. Let's go to level number two. So, level number two, to rewind and recap, level number one is the hustler phase. That's from 0 to 10K a month in revenue. Okay. Now we go to level two, which is the builder phase. That's if you have 10K to 30K a month. Okay. So, if you're level one, 0 to 10K a month, I help school owners in that area who are in the Black Belt Business Academy. Okay, that's a group coaching program designed specifically for school owners who want to get to 10K a month or their first 100 students. So if you're listening to this right now and you're under 10K a month or you're under 100 students and you want to break that milestone, I have a program specifically designed for you to help you. And it's less than the cost of a nice Italian dinner. Okay, it's really cheap to make it accessible for school owners in the beginning phase, the hustler phase that want to shortcut their progress. Okay, so send me a message, send me a DM on Facebook or on Instagram at Black Belt Brenner one and say, hey, I'm at this spot. Tell me a little bit about the academy. I'll send you a link how it works. Okay, so let's go to level two, which could be the builder phase. And every level two and above, is where Black Belt Business Elite comes in, which is the flagship program of W Your Dojo, which is going to be 10 for people who already make 10K a month and beyond. So level two, the builder phase, the revenue range is going to be between 10K and 30K a month. The focus is not going to be necessarily just grinding, doing whatever it takes, but you're going to start delegating a little bit. And some of your key responsibilities is you might begin hiring, whether it's assistant instructor or front desk help. You might document and simplify systems. So whether it's scripts, intros, follow-ups, how do people go from lead to enrollment. You should have that stuff in the beginning. In the hustler phase, you absolutely should. If you want it, like you'll get that in the academy right away, so you can kind of skip that trial and error phase. But still, you're just gonna adjust over time, right? So the 10K, the 0 to 10K, you're kind of like following the recipe exactly. You're memorizing. The builder phase, you're gonna internalize, okay? Maybe you might start to personalize a little bit, okay? And then you're gonna establish culture and core values in your school. Does that mean that you shouldn't have culture and core values in your school? In the beginning, yeah, of course you should. If you start with bad culture or bad core values, your school's really gonna be in trouble later. However, the most important thing in the beginning is really just growth, okay? Getting new students. Now, that does not mean they should have bad culture, okay? Don't get me wrong there. But you're really going to start to establish yourself and get your footing underneath you. Okay. Now, the other thing well, let's actually, you know what, let's go back and talk about that. So you begin hiring and training assistant instructors or front desk help. So how do you go about and how do you figure out when you should actually hire your first person?
Me? Well, first of all, I something you said, I just want to put a point on it because I think it's so valuable. Like I think sometimes people think they want to personalize. I have no interest in personalizing anything. I want best practices. Like I want best practices and I just want to do that. Right? Like, and I look at it as an example, if I was blessed enough to have Warren Buffett come tell me how to invest in stocks, like I don't have I should not have an opinion. My opinion is meaningless. Like I wouldn't be like, but what about Nvidia, Warren? I heard it on CNBC. That guy said it. Who cares what that guy said? And who cares what I think? Warren Buffett has a track record that's better than most. I'm just going to do what he says. So it's like kind of the same thing. Like when we would hire like a sales trainer or whoever, whatever words they tell me to say, I don't have an opinion. I might ask the question like, oh, why do we say these words? I want to understand it. I want to understand the psychology. I'm okay with that. Like I'm for that. But if it's like I want to personalize all the time, to me, that's not professional. Like it would be the same thing as like there's a standard operating procedure how to do a, how to take a spleen out, but like you want to do it your way. Like, okay, but this is the gold standard of how to do it. We're just going to do it this way. So anyway, I would do that. So when do we start hiring people?
Yeah.
I believe leadership team is huge. I'm not telling you, don't, I'm not your attorney for hiring practices, but, or know what's legal for your state or wherever. But I think leadership team is from the very, very beginning. And you talked earlier about the people that join in the beginning. I feel that take the risk from school that's like barely half built and they come in and enroll. They're like a different breed of people that are just like team players. So I think from the very beginning, you're giving opportunity to people to join your leadership team, which is an unpaid thing, which is great for you and great for them. And let's be clear, they're not slaves, they're not indentured servants, they're not like there to do your job. You're there to teach them a skill of leadership and teaching, and the way they practice it is in your school. So it's not like, oh, I got a leadership team. I'm going to go in the office and work on putting memberships in this, or I'm going to go do that. No, you're their best friend on the mat. You're with them or in the intro room, or whatever. But like you're there to teach them a skill, not them do your job. And I think sometimes people think like the leadership team is that, and that's not that. In fact, I want them to believe that they should be paying me to be on the leadership team. And I know some schools do that because they're learning such valuable stuff. Like they're learning how to teach, how to lead, whether it's we use the 21 laws of leadership, we use like Tony Robbins stuff, we use I don't know, the habit, whatever that habit book is called. Um, but that's what it's got to be. And I think it's from the beginning, and you're just constantly trying to like help people learn how to lead. And the ones that are great will rise to the top like the cream, and the other ones won't, which is okay.
And if you're curious what the book is, I think you're talking about Charles Duhigg, The Power of Habit. Is that the one you're talking about?
I'm literally trying to look across the room. I think yes, sir. I think so.
Yeah, great book. If you don't have it, while you're listening to this, is buying it on Amazon. Amazing book. If you want another book recommendation, one of my favorites I absolutely love is Never Lose a Customer Again by Joey Coleman. We'll talk about that more in level three. Obviously, retention is always
Right.
important.
Hold on. I also okay. So you go get this book, you read it. Okay, big deal. For me, I think one of the reasons, like one of the things that I do to help myself is I'll get the book, and each chapter or each thing it's like an aha moment for me, I teach it to the leadership team. So now they're coming in, they're learning how to teach, but and they're also learning, whatever that week I learned in the habits. It's they love it, but also like I sometimes read a chapter of a book when I'm done reading that chapter, I don't even know what I read. When I teach it, it makes me think about it more. They might ask a question, I have to think about it more, but it also more than anything teaches me that. So, and think about the value they get. Like, where else would they learn this? Like, they're not, in regular school, they would never learn it. College, they probably, most of them don't learn it. But now you're teaching it. That's bringing real value to them. And that's going to bring a level of culture in your school of like, oh, you should listen to this podcast, sir. Oh, you should do this. Oh my God, that's so awesome. And then they're going to be addicted to your school because of that stuff. And you're going to grow. You have to grow above them, right? Like, you have to be constantly pulling them up. So your growth is what's going to be happening. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And if you're listening to this right now, whether it's on Facebook or you're listening to a recording of it on Spotify or YouTube, we have worksheets that we go through for the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership that we go through with our team. If you want those worksheets, if you send me a message and say, hey, send me the worksheets of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I'll just send it to you. Okay. Send me a message and comment. Actually, if you just like comment on the video, that'll help me even more. I'll send it to you for free. Won't ask you for anything. I'll just send it to you so you can start using it with your team. Okay. So you want to begin hiring and training assistants. Obviously, if you can get volunteers, depending on your state, depending on the legality, that's going to be good. But what's like usually the first type of employee that you hire?
I would think somebody that complements you. that does stuff that you're naturally not gifted at. So I was an enrollment director in the past. I became the head instructor when we opened our schools. Luckily, my business partner was super gifted with people, super gifted at sales. So I got lucky there. But I think I'd be hiring. Remember, we didn't hire anybody for probably the first 10 years. Didn't doesn't mean we didn't have a huge leadership team. Doesn't mean that like stuff wasn't happening constantly, but we didn't like hire for probably 10 years or maybe a little more. But if I was hiring, I'd be looking for people that complement things that I'm not gifted at. I might still do them. I might still be, and I should still be great at them. But it's not like what I'm like really gifted at doing. I'd be looking for other people's gifts of, they're super good at private lessons. They're super good with the 3 and 4 year olds. They're super good at whatever. I'd be trying to find those people to like raise our entire school because maybe I wasn't as gifted at it.
Yeah, and you have to make sure that it's not just you don't like doing it, you're not that good at it. The other person has to be good at it and know what they're doing. Too often, I've had this happen for me before where someone joins my program, whether it's Black Belt Business Elite for over 10, if you're doing at least 10K a month, usually my clients are doing over 30K a month before they even start with me. Or if you, what'll happen is they'll join and then immediately, and I don't allow this to happen anymore, but I've learned my lesson. They'll try to like pawn off everything on some like instructor that's there part-time or doesn't really join our meetings. Like, okay, yeah, they could do it. They can go recruit new students, but like they're not necessarily a good teacher, or they're not organized, or they don't know how to do any sales or marketing. And they're trying to learn this whole process from scratch. And then you're just like wasting all this money on getting coaching and assistance. Like, no, you got to be good at this stuff first and know how it actually works. And then if you don't like it, cool, you can hand it off. But if you don't understand the system, there's no way that you can have any type of quality control in order to make sure that they're doing it the right way. And they'll just hire someone like, oh, this teenager knows social media. They have Snapchat. They're going to run our Instagram. But it doesn't mean they know how to grow an Instagram, right? So it's two very different things. So make sure you're hiring people that actually know what they're doing so either be really good at finding the right person, or at least you have some base knowledge that you can know when what they're doing is working or not working. Don't just hire an admin person to do your memberships because that's going to cost you way more money of missed new students that you could have enrolled, of missed opportunity, than it will be if you just like did it on your own, even if you hate it in the beginning because you got to know that like how to do it actually. And of course, if you come on board, I can help you skip the learning phase and we can start doing it the right way right at the beginning. Okay, so let's talk about more about document and simplifying systems. So what systems do you feel like, because this is if you just hopped in, we're still in level 2, the builder phase. So you'll be doing between 10K and 30K a month. So what kind of systems and scripts do you feel like, obviously there's a lot and probably more than the purview of this episode today. But what are some documents or systems or scripts do you feel like are the most important in this phase or in the beginning?
So in the very beginning, there's only two things that matter: get students, keep students. So you get students, you need a way to answer the phone, you need a way to enroll them, and a real system, not like I'm good at talking to people. That's not really a system. That's like you might be gifted and that might get you so far. And some people are just they are truly charismatic and they just somehow know the right things to say for most of the time. But I think it's more than that. I know it's more than that for most people. So number one is, answering the phone and have an actual system of enrolling people. And number two is having a system that class, and, everybody thinks they teach a good class, right? But when you look at most retention, it's not that good. So, having systems of how to teach class, stuff that I'm sure you teach people like PCP, spotlighting, highlighting. And then also, what's the system to motivate people to come say to you, hey, I want to be a black belt. How do I join black belt leadership? So where they're committing, where they're coming to you and not like the 3 out of 10, but like 9 out of 10, or like asking, or when you bring it up to them, like, hey, have you ever thought about being a black belt? Yes, sir. I would love to be a black belt. That's all I ever think about. Like, because you're teaching class in a specific way that motivates them to want to do it. So I think in the beginning, and then the third step of all this is, of course, is instructor development. But if you don't have a way to get new students, I guess the part before that even is how you getting the leads. You need a system for that. It's, the phone might ring, somebody might walk by, and if you're in an amazing shopping center then that might, and that's all you need. That might be great. Um, but for the most part, that's not the case for most schools. And then a way to answer the phone, a way to get them enrolled, all choreographed very specifically. And then how do you teach class where every time they leave, they can't wait to come back. They can't, and just so we're clear, I've had tons of students quit, so it's not like, I'm perfect at any of this. But how, they can't wait to come back and they see the vision of earning their black belt.
Mm. That's a really great point. And I think really at this phase, like you're developing leadership skills, not just teaching, but developing leadership skills that other people kind of want to be you, right? They look up to you that, oh, cool, I want to be a teacher. I want to be an instructor. And you get really good. Like there's some skills I think you need to start mastering, which is like time blocking and personal productivity. Okay. So in the beginning, at phase one, for level one, when you're at the hustler phase, like sometimes you can be kind of all over the place, but as you get to or as you start to grow, you have to be really good at like, okay, this is the 2 hours a day I work on marketing. This is the hour a day I work on retention. This is the time of the week where I order new equipment. And it's not just like, oh, now I'm answering emails, now I'm answering the phone, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that, and your focus is all over the place. You have to have time blocking and productivity. And because that's the only way that you're going to be efficient with your time in order to scale, in order to grow. And I think a lot of times in the beginning, especially phase one, people like you because they get a lot of attention from the instructors in the beginning, right? Like there's only like 30 students, like of course they're gonna like you and love you because they get so much attention and energy from you. But as you start to scale, usually 10 to 30K a month is usually over 100 students, they're not gonna get the same personal touch points. You really have to build in the system that they do get those personal touch points and they do feel valued and do feel seen and they are progressing because you have a really good product. Anyone, for the most part, could teach a class of students that's like three or four. But teaching a class of like 10 or 15 or 20 and actually making sure each student does a good job and not like half of them actually look like crap, but only your star students look good, then like you're never going to get to where you really want to go because your product isn't good. Okay, so got to make sure your product is really developing all the time. Anything else you want to add for level two of the builder phase, 10K to 30K a month?
No, sir.
Cool. And then, of course, if you want to grow your martial arts school without, at this point, paying for ads, this is where we have the Black Belt Business Elite, which is my one-on-one coaching program, which we go through the Triangle Codex, which is a three-step system that we use in order to recruit new students from schools, daycares, businesses. And during the summertime, like right now, if you're listening to this and it happens to be summer, we're going to go after summer camps and daycares. Okay. So older kids in the summer camps, when they're not in school, they're at the summer camp. So we go to other summer camps and recruit them into our core program. And then the same thing with daycares for the younger kids. Obviously, for daycares, you're just going to teach whatever age group you actually teach. So if you don't teach 2-year-olds, you're not teaching 2-year-olds. If you don't teach 4-year-olds, well, cool, you teach five and up. So if that's something you want to do, reach out to me. I'll show you how to do it so you don't have to have a summer slump. Okay, so let's go to pillar number three, which is their
Hey,
level
hold on, hold on,
three.
hold on. It's
Yeah.
been almost an hour. I know you said you wanted 30 minutes to an hour. Of course, I would be delighted to stay on and talk forever. But do you want to do a cliffhanger and do it again the next time you want to do it?
To go to level three and level four.
Yes, sir. And there's also a ton of, I mean, there's a ton of, content here.
Yeah, I totally agree. My question for you is that because you don't have time right now or because you want it to be a part two episode?
I think it'd be fun to be a part two episode. Partly, I'm also starving. But of course, I would stay. It's not, it's, the win is
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so
Uh,
I think that's a great idea. So part three and or sorry, level three, which is gonna be the scalar phase, 30K to 50K, and level four, which is the CEO phase, 50K to 83K. We'll do a part two episode. We'll do this next weekend, and they'll have part one, part two, so you guys can. Yeah, so if you're already at 30K to 50K a month, and you're like, hey, level one, level two, I don't need that. Cool, you can just watch part two. But for right now, before we head off, I have some of our clients on here. Okay, there's some of my clients for W Dojo, and I want to open up some questions that they might have. So, and by the way, if you're a part of our Black Belt Business Elite program, which these guys are, per my one-on-one coaching, you get access to this stuff like this all the time, where you get access to like one-on-one, not only one-on-one coaching every week, they got that anyway, but also the ability to answer questions when we do cool master classes like this. So I'm going to open up if you guys have any questions. So if you have a question, you're going to turn your camera on and unmute. I'm going to make sure not everyone does this at the same time. And you can ask any questions you have, whether it's on phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four, or anything you want to know about running school or running location. So Matt, do you have a question you want to ask? You like raise your hand or something. Wave to me. Okay, cool. I'm gonna unmute you. Go ahead.
All right. Well, first, that was super informative. So thank you. I always like listening to you guys talk back and forth. I've heard a couple podcast episodes. Um, so my question is, at a certain point, when is like enough enough? So, like for reference, our school does almost 2 million in revenue, 560 something students, and it's like, how much more do I want to chase, or how much do I want to enjoy life? I'm just curious what your perspective on that is.
Who
That's,
are you?
that's
You
you.
want to ask him or you
That's
want to
you.
ask
I
me?
talk to Matt every week, so I'll let you answer.
All right. I think that's an amazing question. I think I mean, I'll just give you my answer. For me, I always, I have a lot of FOMO.
Hmm.
Uh, and when I see other people's success, I'm like, oh, I could do that too, because I like the challenge. Certainly I don't need to grow anymore. So I am also in a phase of let's not mess any of this up at the same time. But I mean, obviously, it's a answer that you answer yourself, right? Like, are you living in the house that you want to live in? Do you, I don't know if you have children, but are they going to the schools they should be going to? Are you guys going on the vacations you want to go to? Are you comfortable with your retirement plan? I mean, if you're doing 2 million a year, I mean, none of those things should really be any of an issue. And this is not for today, but when people talk about their growth, it's also a meaningless number, just like their active count is a meaningless number. You seem super sharp, so I'm sure it's not the case for you, but you know, people would say, "Oh, I grossed this amount," but then when you dig into it, they make no money. Either they, their expenses are super high, so it's like, oh, what's even the point of that? Um, so I think it's just you deciding what you're happy with. And I have a few friends that have a single school, do numbers like yours, they're on vacation constantly. Some of them are in their schools constantly because they love to teach. That's like sometimes it says like, oh, get out of the grind. Unless you love teaching, and then that's not a grind. That's what you love to do. Like you love being with your students, you love doing stuff with your students. So I think as you get to that level of success, you have to decide like what your favorite parts are and try not to do the other parts that you just don't like to do. And then the only other thing that I would say that like for me is just something I love, and I know Mr. Brenner said this in the beginning, like everybody just kind of says this. For me, it's not that. For me, it's like truly so much joy is when I help other people get to success. So do I profit on every one of their successes? Yes. So is that a benefit to me? Of course. But at this point, I'm more excited about that than I am the incremental money that we make. Of course, I like making more money, but I don't spend what I make now. So it would, an extra whatever wouldn't make that big of a difference. So I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but I think it's
You
mostly
are.
right. But and also try not to have FOMO. When you hear somebody does this, somebody does that, like, oh, I'll do it. Maybe like they're the ones, have you read the book like Dying with Zero?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. Um, and then also another one of my mentors always says you should have a number. This is a good thing. You should have a number in your head that when you get there, you're good.
Hmm.
Um, and that's that. So you're getting off the treadmill. The only opposite of that I would say is I think when you stop growing, you start dying. It's either you're growing or you're not growing. Like you're either growing or you're wilting. I've always believed
Hmm.
in that, and I also think lack of growth creates burnout.
And bad habits.
But
And a lot of times fosters bad habits. Like if you're not doing anything, you have no responsibility. Usually is when bad habits will creep in. Like you have,
yeah,
because being motivated and being goal oriented usually will keep you disciplined and focused on a goal, right?
and it doesn't have to be like more karate students. I mean, obviously your karate school is legitimately one of the best in the country. And do you own your own building? I think you do, right?
So my partner owns the building. Yeah.
Um, so I'm just trying to think like maybe you start like, is your retirement account maxed out?
But
Like
that's
all
not
the
about financial. He's more curious about, he's not saying how much money do I need to make. He's asking,
no, 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 but I'm saying like things that you would be like focusing on to make sure that like when is enough? Like, okay, like for me, like that would be some things that I'd be thinking about. Like, am I doing all that stuff? Like other avenues to just make sure like you're generating a tremendous amount of value in your school. How am I? That's anyway, you're right. Maybe that's not the right answer, but got it.
No, it's helpful. someone also told me like what's your number? I heard that yesterday of like striving for a X number of dollars is in a retirement account. Like, okay, like you can live without having to work, then you do it because you love it, but you don't have to.
which
So
is the best position, right?
yes.
And I know this is not this time for this, but there are like, and you probably already know this, like different kinds of retirement accounts, right? Like you have like your
Mhm.
basic Roth, which I'm guessing you don't even qualify for. And then like there's all these other things for high net worth individuals that like, at least to me, are like super interesting, like ways to see if you qualify for it, to see, and if it makes sense for you personally, like to like, that's also like a way to grow yourself and stay interested in your own business. Like, oh, now I'm going to do this over here. Now I'm going to do this over here. It's just interesting.
Okay, I'd love to learn more at a later time about the different because I don't qualify for the Roth and the all that anymore.
Right.
We can talk about that, Matt, next time we're on a call if you want to go through the different options.
Sure. That would be helpful.
Okay, cool. Yeah, remind me. We'll go over that. All right, cool. Matt, any other questions you have?
No, but that was super helpful. I needed to hear it. Thank you.
Can you wait? Hold on. Can you tell me what you heard?
What I heard?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what was your takeaway or whatever? Just so I feel like I helped you and I don't leave this call thinking, oh, I messed up. I didn't say anything good to Matt.
Sure. Find a number, think about what you're actually working for and think about like, yes, you can make more, but also you can create opportunities for other people. And that is something you can strive for. Um, and different kinds of retirement accounts for higher net worth individuals. That was helpful.
Sounds good.
Cool. Okay, cool, Matt. All right, let's go. Kevin, what question you have over there? But
Thank you, gentlemen. Informative as always. Appreciate you both. My question is that you guys are obviously great at developing systems. How do you guys keep your number twos and number threes loyal to your boat versus going out and becoming captain of their own ship, since they already have all the systems, relatively speaking, down that you guys train them on?
I can answer that, from my experience. Um, we always make sure that the opportunity that we present is better than any other opportunity that, yes, they got the systems, but we're constantly growing, we're constantly reinvesting, and they see all that. So could they go do it on their own? Yeah, of course. But they also want to be part of the camaraderie. They want to be part of everything. And we're also exceptionally generous, I think, in the way that we do things. Like sometimes we make less because they make more, which is fine. But we also I also treat everybody legitimately how I'd want to be treated. And I always ask myself, would I join this group? And if the answer is yes, we do it. If the answer is no, we're not doing it. And I want, and what I learned a long time ago, if you leave, let's say I could get $10, I should always take nine, because I want to leave a little on the table. The other person feels great because I want to do another thing with them in the future. Like, and I'm always presenting them with the vision of being part of us, of being part of the organization. And it's better to be part of us than not be part of us. And I know for a fact that's the case. And we have so much success within our organization. Um, they see that on a regular basis.
and
Mm-hmm.
and for some context, so obviously Kevin I talk to all the time. Just had a really good update with him this past week. So he had some turnover with his staff, right? Head instructor decided on a whim to be out. He's leaving. Number two left like a week or two later. And I know that's never happened to us. We've never had anyone leave. We keep everyone forever. So I can't imagine what that's like. Obviously being facetious, but it has happened to us many times. So that's, I guess, the context he's coming from. So now he's hired someone who's like from the outside, but also has some overlap in terms of training history. So I guess for him, it's almost like, okay, this is like a hired outside mercenary almost, right? They're not loyal to the country, right? They didn't grow up in the country, grow up under a system. He's like hiring them from the outside, even though there's a little bit of overlap in their in his specific case. So how do you get those people to be bought into the system or
I
bought
mean,
into the vision? People
some
who
of
are
it,
not homegrown.
well, first of all, I don't think we're super good at outside people. We have some outside people, but for the most part, it is internal. And I do think that our retention of instructors is remarkably amazing. I think it's one of our best things that we do. how would I get him to stay? Is first of all, I'd have a vision for him of what he can do, and that vision has to be better than anything else he could possibly do in his life. Where like when he's telling his friends about like, okay, if I do this, I'm going to achieve this. I'm going to do this. Whether it's financial, obviously financial's got to be part of it, but also like an opportunity to either buy into the business or get like a percentage of something or open up another location. Like I would have a whole vision set up for the person. I might not do the entire vision immediately, but I would make sure that they knew that if they did a great job and we worked well together, like we're going to be partners for life. And I would want them to know that pretty quickly. I would also spend a ton of time with them. The best way to relationship with people is to break bread with them. So,
Hmm.
we'd be going out to lunch on a regular, and I wouldn't treat them like an employee. I would treat them like a partner. I would treat them like a teammate. I would treat them like I wanted them there forever. I'd be courting them pretty much um, all the time, train them like crazy. Now, with that all being said, if they're not the right person, they still could leave, and it's not my fault. But I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make them feel like a team, that like I care about them. And I think everybody wants to be on a winning team and everybody wants to feel cared about.
Hmm.
And and it's not going to be like, oh, it's the third Tuesday of the month. We have to go out for pizza. No, no, we're going to go out for pizza like on a regular basis. Like, because we're going to be out delivering flyers together. We're going to be out at table events. We're going to be doing birthday parties together. We're going to be practicing the script together. We're going to be teaching class and high-fiving together. Like, we're doing things together where like he's part of the team or she's part of the team.
Hmm.
Cool. Is that helpful?
I thought of a second unrelated question, and I think both of you will
Can I ask,
appreciate this.
can I make a
Yes, sir.
suggestion? The two people that just left, might not have anything to do with you.
Okay.
But with me, I would try and like over the next couple of days, really be thinking like, where did that go wrong? Like, what could I have done? Like, like what did they go off and I'm not asking you to answer any of this. I'm just saying like what I
Right.
would ask. What did they go off and do something better? Like whatever they were doing, but so if the person like moved to Texas with their spouse because their spouse got a super good job and they couldn't take it up and they cried as they left the building, that's one thing. If the person went to do like something else that was like worse or not that great, then I'd be thinking like, what could I? And I'd only be asking myself not to beat myself up but to fix it for the next time. Like, I can't do anything about the past, but I can, help the future if I correct my own habits and behaviors, right? Like I'm the only one I can only improve myself. So that's what I'd be doing.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
What's your other question you had?
So, and you guys will appreciate this since the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. I love football analogies, so hopefully you guys can follow me on this. Eagles win the Super Bowl because of Jalen Hurts. They've got a running quarterback that's set up for their offense, per se. You throw Joe Burrow on the Eagles, great quarterback, but not the most mobile quarterback there is. And no disrespect to anybody from Cincinnati listening, I love Joe Burrow. But do you go and keep Joe Burrow and kind of recreate your offense in that particular location? Or do you try to go and trade out Joe Burrow to bring in Jalen Hurts because you know that works better for your system? And I'm talking about a senior instructor right now. Did the analogy jump on?
I feel for a football analogy is not my deal. I'm
I'm
thinking
the big football fan. He's not a huge football fan.
uh,
Oh, really? Come on, man! You guys are Philly. Enjoy the Super Bowl, for God's sakes.
listen,
Yeah,
listen.
listen.
I'm all about being on the bandwagon.
All
Uh,
right, I just love the football analogies because they're easy for people to draw.
I think some of
You
our
have
other
a running quarterback.
I think some of our other instructors, I'm going to give you my view, and mine is like a generalist view because
Okay, go for it.
I couldn't name any other player on the team. Uh, I could probably name that the quarterback who could jump over people backwards. Not the quarterback, the guy who could jump over people backwards. I can't think of it.
Barkley, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So unless he's an A-list player, I wouldn't know. But anyway,
Okay.
um, yes, I believe that Jalen Hurts is a superstar and, Barkley, same thing. But I also think, from my point of view, at least, they had that like defensive coordinator that they always show the video of, that he's somehow like, a super genius. And I think like when a team does that well, is it like the Michael Jordan, back in the day on the Chicago Bulls? But I think I think like he's the star, yes. But I think if he didn't have the exact cast around him that he had, it wouldn't be like any four other guys would do the same job. And if Jalen Hurts and Barkley were together, but they had like another whole other, the rest of the team was other people, I don't believe, and including the coaching staff, I don't believe it would work. I think it's like they have like everything is clicking perfectly. So
Mhm.
it's not, I don't think it's ever like one person. So you change out Joe Burrows, I don't know what that does, but I think like it's like a machine. And like you take out one little piece, it's not going to work. So
Well,
that's,
I guess putting my question, then I'll take the football analogy out. Are you better off changing the system for a great player or subbing out the great player because of the system?
I think there's only a system that works and the player has to conform to it. And I understand like if you have a running player or a throwing, quarterback, I get what you're trying. I think at least I think I understand. I think
Yeah,
the system is the system is the system. And if the instructor is super good, of course it can be probably personalized a little bit, but I do think sometimes it messes it up a little bit. The system is what it is. So for
right,
me, he needs to run the system. Mr. Brenner,
right.
with this football thing thrown there, I'm probably not the ideal person.
No,
Yeah, no, I
got it.
apologize. So, I
But
mean,
no,
to
let's
go and
talk
try to make
golf.
it more clear, I have an instructor who's a really good teacher, but horrible for the administrative, horrible for anything other than teaching, you know. So, in some ways, it's a little bit of a headache because he causes stress on everything that's not teaching related, but he's such a good teacher. You know, is that someone that, is detrimental to the system as a whole, or a positive that you put pieces around him to go and kind of lift him
I
up?
would I would put pieces around them, but I would also question a good t the answer is 100% you put people around to get the deal done. 100%. The question I
Right,
would have is that defining a good teacher to me is the students are good and your retention is good. Not like they're
correct.
dynamic and they can kick really great and
No,
they're
I
like
can care less about
and they're
that.
and they're and they're charismatic. Like everybody kind
Yes,
of like everybody loves them, but half the school quits. Like
right.
I've seen that. Oh, they're so great, but this no whatever. So you get the idea. Like I would qualify
Mhm.
what makes a good teacher. But Mr. Brenner, I feel like you want to do something with this football analogy?
No, I mean, him and I obviously both love football, so we click on that level. But honestly, I think you answered the question.
Yes, sir.
Um,
Thank you.
so yeah, thanks for coming on, Kevin, and asking. So if you're listening right now and you run a martial arts school and you want to grow your school organically without ads through what I call the Triangle Codex, the three-pillar system, through schools, daycares, and businesses, and in the summertime, we're gonna go through summer camps. Send me a message. I'll help you get set up so we can start moving really quickly so you don't have to have a summer slump. Or if you want systems for your scripts or your staff training, we could do that as well. Send me an email, matthew@wdojo.com, or send me a message on Facebook or Instagram and I'll help you out. Thank you guys for listening. We'll have part two coming up soon. So make sure you like, subscribe, however you're watching us. Bye, guys.